Hey guys, it's Saturday, January the 11th, and I'm building cabinets. So I didn't film yesterday because Parker had a field trip. I ended up going with him to do that. Should have carried a camera because afterwards we found this really cool indoor track in Kennesaw for the RC cars. I think I've got a couple of clips on my phone. Maybe I can throw them in right here. But let me show you guys the progress since I haven't really filmed much in the past couple days. Check it out. I got the paneling in. It's painted. Speakers are in up there, which they're not the ones that are playing right now. That's my Bluetooth over there. The radio is in, but none of that is actually wired in yet. I got the second roof vent in. It's wired in and working. So, wow, on this video it looks like it's not hardly spinning. It's spinning pretty fast. But anyways, that's done. I need to put the solar panels on the roof still and then leak test everything, and then I can button up this ceiling. But in the meantime, like I said, I'm building my cabinets. This right here will cover up. It'll cover up with that kit, the refrigerator cabinet that goes here. Fridge, toilet, and then there's drawers in between the two. A bench right here, eventually. I've got my shunts in. These three are in and actually working. So we've got some data showing up on those. So there's 13.11 volts in the battery right now. This one is going to be on the battery directly. I do not have it wired in yet. That's why there's not anything there, but it gives a little bit different info than these two. So I'm curious to see how this is gonna work as far as tracking power goes. I got my salvage cabinet setting in here. They're just setting in place, like the drawer, the lids and stuff are not fastened down yet. But we got progress. Also, this is what my electrical is looking like. Let me light it up. Kind of a little bit of a mess still right now. Like these wires still have to be fused and tied in. This is my solar, which I'm not tying in until I get my panels done. That way I know for sure that I'm hooking positive to positive, negative to negative. And I gotta put the other battery in, hook this shunt up right here where those wires are hanging. And then once the fridge cabinet's in and that outlet's plugged in, then this wire hanging right here can be plugged into the inverter, and I can throw power to the refrigerator. So yeah, once all of that is done and I have cabinets built today, I'm gonna start on this area. That's where my water tank's gonna go and my plumbing, and then I've got two 24 by 50 inch drawers that go on in there too. Excited about this. This build is gonna have a microwave in it. That's the cabinets that I'm working on right now, and I'm very excited about that. Now I ran some numbers on it. This is a 1700 watt microwave, and if you run this thing for an average of, I can't remember if it was 10 or 12 minutes that I did the math on, like cooking rice or something like that, plus if you figure just 2 or 3 meals a day, you're probably going to be somewhere in the range of 10 minutes total time use. It equals to, I think it was like right at 60 amps. This is a 270 amp hour battery, therefore it's using close to a fifth of it. Actually probably a little bit over a fifth, but that's a lot of power, especially when you consider I've got roof vents that I run regularly. I've got a stereo that pulls a pretty good bit of power that I run regularly. I got a TV that I use regularly. I charge GoPros and I charge a lot of stuff. So this is gonna end up not being enough battery out. Well, I say that it'll probably be enough, but I would rather be on the safe side and not ever have to worry about power. That way I can enjoy the trip and not fooling with power. So I'm going to double the size of this battery. I'm going to put 2 of these in here and put me a total of 550 amp hours. That should cover everything I could ever need. I'm also looking into a kit for a secondary alternator up front, put a high output alternator. It's over 200 amps. So that would produce charging capabilities very fast. Plus I now have the inverter that charges also, where I can plug directly in. Power should not be a problem anymore. Not that it really was a problem. It was a problem whenever I went with the cheap batteries. for sure. Like, that is the biggest recommendation I can give to anybody doing this, is do not put Walmart batteries in your build. I know it's the cheap option. I know you see tons of videos on YouTube that says that it works, but I can tell you from experience, yes, it does work for about somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 months. Then you start having issues. What happens is the Walmart batteries do not accept power the same way that these lithium ions do. The lithium ions, you can throw as much as you can possibly throw to them and they will take it. They love it. The lead acid that Walmart sells, the Deep Cycle Marines, they top out at a much lower amp rating. And the best way I heard this explained was if you took a 2-liter bottle and your power is the fluid that's inside, correct? Well, if you leave the neck on the 2-liter bottle, even if you've got a 5-gallon bucket full of water to pour from, you're still going to have to pour through that neck. So it's limited as to how fast it can fill up. They said that lithium is the equivalent of taking that same 2-liter bottle, cutting the top off of it, and making it to where you can pour the electricity in or out just as fast as you can possibly dump it. If you look at it that way, it makes a whole lot more sense. So, that being said, we tested the old system that I had in here. I had 4 Marine batteries that were linked together in, not in parallel, they were in series. So, stayed at 12 volts and just had more amp hours. I ended up with 4 batteries that had 122 amp hours apiece. That's, what was it, 488 amp hours, but you only get 50% of that in actual usage. So I was somewhere around 240 amp hours. So I increased my amp hours with this new battery and I made it to where I can charge better. So what does that translate into? Well, the alternator on the old system, we put a clamp on it and we were monitoring it and checking to see how much power was actually passing through that cable and into the batteries. Well, with the lead acid system, it topped out between 12 and 15 amps. So, let me pull my calculator out so I'm not giving you the wrong math on this. If you've got, let's see, 275 amp hours divided by 15 amps, let's do it on the top side. That gives you 18.33 hours that the van would have to run to bring the batteries to fully charged. Okay, well, whenever we switched the battery out and put the lithium ion in there and there was no limiting and it just threw the power to it, it was averaging somewhere around 60 amps. Now that was in the float stage. So it will peak out higher than that. But that being in the float stage, that is what the alternator was pushing out, was 60 amps, because the battery was able to take it. Well, if we do that same math, 275 amp hours divided by 60 amps, 4.58 hours, a little over 4.5 hours, and the batteries would be fully charged versus 18 point whatever that was, 33. So in a nutshell, my daily commuting between cranking the van and letting it warm up before I actually drive off, I have found out in really cold temperatures that if you do not do that, it does not have power. It won't even push the vehicle. So you kind of have to. But that 10 minutes of it running in the morning and getting warmed up is 10 minutes of the alternator throwing that power to the battery. Well, then you have your actual commute, and then you're going to do the same thing again whenever you go back to wherever you're staying that night. So when you look at just the daily commuting, it produces a pretty good bit of power. Then on top of that, I have the solar, which I stated in a previous video that the solar is not that efficient. The most I ever produced in one day, I think, was around 58 amps or something like that. No, not 58. I think it was around 60 amps for the entire day. So I produced roughly a fifth of the power for an entire day of sunshine. So I hate to badmouth solar. I like the idea of the green energy, but it just doesn't produce a whole lot. So it's hard to keep batteries full off of only solar. That's the reason why I ran the wire from the alternator, and I also have the port to be able to charge directly from shore power. So, all All right, guys, well, I am rambling to the point. If I don't get started working, these cabinets are not gonna get built. And I will show you at least the finished product whenever I get there. I don't know if it'll be in today's episode, tomorrow's episode, what, but I'll show you what they look like when they get done. Until then, see you guys later.